If we're going to survive the ongoing collapse of our civilization, we're going to need new ways of telling stories. I'm an artist who tells stories. That's the only way I know how to make sense of the world. It's both terrifying and exciting to realize that exercising our imagination and our ability to tell new kinds of stories might be the most important work of the next decade. You're watching Rebecca's Third Act, a video series where I share my midlife reboot. Parenting, career, theater making, the world, and my own body are all shifting under me. Join me on a journey to figure out what's next. As I'm recording this, we're more than a month into the stupidest war ever started, which is saying a lot. People who study the moments that tip precarity into disaster have been saying for years that an oil shock like the one we're experiencing now is one of the levers that will tip us inevitably into a dissolution of the current world order. I'm not saying this in a build your bunker kind of way, although please plant a garden and secure some emergency water if you haven't already. I'm saying this in a it's long past time to accept what's happening kind of way. So many things have happened in the last decade that we never thought would come to pass. We've smashed through all the climate deadlines, and we're facing a world that will look very different from the one we all grew up in. I've been reading Hospicing Modernity by Brazilian scholar Vanessa Machado de Oliveira. It's a book designed for people like me, people in what she calls low-intensity struggle, where we're encountering signs of collapse, but not really suffering much in our daily lives. She writes, quote, "Part of us already knows we're in a huge mess, but because we do not know what to do or how to sit with the knowledge, we tend to evade thinking about it." Her book walks through exercise after exercise aimed at embracing the ways we resist understanding what's actually happening and moving past resistance to creative action. Machado urges us to, quote, expand our existing sensibilities, effective languages, and constellations of knowledge and relationality. Such an expansion might then prepare us with the stamina and strength to face the difficulties of unlearning our investments in a dying system. It's increasingly clear that the solutions for our problems are not going to come from the systems that caused them. And as an artist, I can see that the way we were taught to tell stories, the hero's journey, the pyramid structure, is not going to yield stories of a liberated future. In his fantastic book, The Great Derangement, Amitav Ghosh talks about how the form of the novel arose at the same time as the worst of colonization. The colonial mindset, the infinite progress narrative, is embedded in our stories. Machado explains, quote, "We are living off expired or expiring stories. Stories that expire can no longer dance with you. They are lethargic or stuck. Many of these expired stories give us a sense of security, purpose, and direction precisely because they seem stable and solid." So how do we invent new stories? Where do we look for inspiration? I've been looking to other cultures' traditions, reading indigenous authors, and learning about very different ways to conceptualize time, and taking inspiration from nature, the way marine mammals communicate, and the way mushrooms network might hold the key to the kind of stories we need. In one of my posts this month, I talked about the concept of Earth 1, 2, and 3 that gives us a framework for resistance. Machado's book has a similar triple framework, dividing efforts to address collapse into 3 groups. Those who believe in the potential of our current system, but see that it needs to include groups who've been historically excluded. This is the "a female president wouldn't take us to war" platform. Second, those who want radical reform of the system, bringing an intersectional analysis to how power works. And then third, those who want to go beyond radical to a complete reimagining, who don't see that solutions can come from inside a system that's so broken. I've been thinking about how this relates to the conversations we've been having in the theater field, which break down very similarly. I was part of a multi-year effort to track the demographics of incoming artistic leaders, which were slowly changing to include more women and slightly more BIPOC folks. One of the reasons we stopped tracking was because it became clear that getting in the door was only the beginning of what turned out to be a very challenging chapter for many of these new leaders. During 2020, the We See You White American Theater movement kicked off more radical reform, with theaters moving away from outmoded practices like 10 out of 12 tech days and towards more humane rehearsal schedules. Not very many theaters have made the real substantive changes to programming or internal culture called for in that manifesto. I'm interested now in the voices that are calling for a radical restructuring of our field. I'm coming to believe that the regional theater movement has run its course and we need radical new solutions. And I'm hearing this same hospicing language among arts nonprofits as we look at whether or not to fight for the survival of any particular theater facing financial changes. Mikado writes, "There's a vast array of possibilities of existence that are viable, but that are unthinkable or unimaginable within modernity." She calls these the adjacent possible. I wonder what the adjacent possible looks like for the theater. But I don't want to get too derailed in imagining new structures when I think the structures need to fit the stories and not the other way around. I've always liked difficult stories, what I used to call broken stories that don't fit a neat pattern or add up to a clear arc. I think that's because artistically I'm attracted to these other story structures, ones that don't tie up tidily. There's a Lewis Carroll poem I've always loved that I used to ask actors to read in auditions. The last line goes, "And when I found the door was locked, I pulled and pushed and kicked and knocked. And when I found the door was shut, I tried to turn the handle, but..." There are two ways actors engaged with this text. One group would try to act out an ending to this sentence, to tie it up in a way that the text doesn't. The other group, the ones I wanted to work with, respected the unfinished line and let the but hang in the air. I want these kinds of stories for us, the ones that let us imagine different futures, the ones that stay unfinished, that respect mess and contradiction, that help us practice for a much messier world. Collapse is here, in the climate, in our democracy, and in our theater. It's up to us to figure out